I woke up to my phone ringing at 6:30 on a Tuesday morning. Now, at 67 years old, I'm usually already up by then. But this particular morning, I'd allowed myself to sleep in a bit. The November cold in Jasper, Alberta, had settled deep into my bones the night before, and my old bedroom in the house I'd lived in for 40 years felt especially cozy. The caller ID showed my granddaughter Emma's name. My heart did that little skip it always does when family calls early. Emma was 19, in her second year at the University of Alberta, studying computer science. And she wasn't usually up before noon, unless there was a good reason. "Emma? Everything okay, sweetheart?" "Grandpa." Her voice was tight, urgent. "I need you to listen to me very carefully. Whatever you do today, do not bring your silver thermos to the hardware store." I sat up straighter in bed, fully awake now. "My thermos? Emma, what are you talking about?" "Please, Grandpa. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me on this. Don't bring the thermos. Can you promise me?" The thermos she was talking about was a Stanley I'd had for nearly 30 years. My late wife Margaret had given it to me, and I took it everywhere. Everyone in town knew that thermos. It was kind of my signature, I suppose. "Emma, you're scaring me. What's going on? Are you in trouble?" "I can't explain right now. I'm in class in 20 minutes. But please, Grandpa, just this once, leave it at home. I'll call you tonight and explain everything. Promise me?" Her voice cracked on those last words, and I heard something I hadn't heard from Emma since she was a little girl and had nightmares. Fear. "I promise, sweetheart. I promise." "Thank you. I love you, Grandpa. I have to go." The line went dead. I sat there in my flannel pajamas, staring at my phone, trying to make sense of what just happened. My silver thermos? The hardware store? It was Tuesday, which meant it was indeed my day to head into town. Every Tuesday and Friday for the past 5 years, since I'd retired from my carpentry business, I'd drive the 15 minutes into downtown Jasper, grab some supplies at Rundle Hardware, and spend an hour or so chatting with the other fellows who gathered there. It was our unofficial coffee club, though we all brought our own drinks. Bill Henderson would be there. Bill and I had been friends for 42 years, since we'd both moved to Jasper in our mid-20s, young men looking to make our fortunes in the Rockies. We'd raised our kids together, gone fishing every summer, helped each other through the deaths of our wives. Bill's coffee setup was even more elaborate than mine. He had this whole French press situation he'd bring in. I looked at my silver thermos sitting on the kitchen counter where I'd left it the night before, already washed and ready for today's coffee. What could possibly be wrong with bringing it to the hardware store? But Emma's voice, that fear in it, kept echoing in my head. I made my coffee and poured it into a plain brown travel mug I'd gotten free from the insurance company. It felt wrong, unfamiliar in my hand. I'd used that silver thermos 5 days a week for decades. The drive into town was beautiful, the way it always is in November when the snow is fresh on the mountains and the morning sun hits the peaks just right. I tried to focus on the scenery, but my mind kept wandering back to Emma's call. My granddaughter was one of the smartest people I knew. If she was worried about something, there was probably a good reason. I pulled into the parking lot at Rundle Hardware at 8:45, my usual time. Bill's truck was already there, along with Tom Morrison's SUV and Dave Chen's old Bronco. Through the window, I could see them gathered near the back of the store, where Joe, the owner, had set up some chairs and a small table for us. I grabbed my brown mug and headed inside. "Well, well," Bill called out as I walked in. "Robert Fletcher without his famous thermos? Did hell freeze over and nobody tell me?" I forced a laugh. Just felt like a change, I guess. Bill was 68, a year older than me, with a full head of white hair he was annoyingly proud of. He was wearing one of his expensive fleece jackets, the kind that cost $300. Bill had always done well for himself. He'd owned a plumbing business, sold it 5 years ago for what he said was a comfortable sum. Sit down, Tom said. Tom was 72, the oldest of our group. Bill was just telling us about this investment opportunity. Sounds pretty interesting. I settled into my chair, trying to act normal, but something felt off. Bill caught my eye, and for just a second, I saw something flicker across his face. Disappointment? No, that couldn't be right. Yeah, Robert, you'll want to hear this, Bill continued. Remember how I was telling you about my nephew in Calgary? The one in finance? I nodded. Bill talked about this nephew sometimes, though I'd never met him. Well, he's put together this investment fund, specifically for us older folks. Low risk, steady returns. He's keeping it small, just for family and close friends. I've already put in 50,000, and I've seen returns of 12% in just 3 months. Tom whistled. 12%? That's better than my RRSP has done in years. Exactly, Bill said, leaning forward. His eyes were bright, animated. And here's the thing. He's only taking on a few more investors, wants to keep it manageable. But he needs commitments by the end of the week. Dave, who was usually pretty quiet, spoke up. Sounds almost too good to be true, Bill. What's the catch? Bill laughed. No catch, just smart investing. He's focusing on AI startups, Canadian companies that are about to blow up. Gets in on the ground floor, we reap the benefits. I sipped my coffee from the unfamiliar brown mug and watched Bill's face as he talked. We'd been friends for 42 years. I'd been the best man at his wedding. He'd held my hand at Margaret's funeral when I couldn't stop crying. This was Bill Henderson, the man I trusted with my life. But something about the way he was talking, the slight desperation in his enthusiasm, made Emma's warning echo louder in my head. How much is the minimum investment? Tom asked. 25,000. I know that's not nothing, but think about the returns. At 12% every 3 months, that's nearly 50% annually. Where else are you going to get that these days? I might be interested, Tom said. My pension is fine, but the extra income would be nice. Could finally take that trip to Scotland I've been talking about. Bill nodded enthusiastically. That's exactly the kind of thing this enables, Tom. Listen, I'm meeting with my nephew's associate tomorrow at the community center. Just a small presentation, showing the numbers, answering questions. You should all come. Bring your wives, your families. This is the kind of opportunity that can really change your retirement. He looked at me. Robert, you especially. I know money's been tight since Margaret passed. Hospital bills and all that. This could really help you out. And there it was. That little twist of the knife, reminding me of my vulnerable spot. Bill knew I'd spent most of my savings on Margaret's cancer treatments in her final year. I had my pension in the house, but I wasn't exactly comfortable. I'll think about it, I said carefully. Don't think too long. Like I said, he's only taking on a few more investors. The urgency, the pressure, the too good to be true returns. Pieces started clicking together in my head, but I couldn't quite see the full picture yet. We chatted for another 20 minutes about the usual things. The weather, the Oilers' chances this season, the new highway construction. But my mind was elsewhere. I kept thinking about Emma's call, about Bill's investment pitch, about that look on his face when he saw I didn't have my thermos. My thermos. Why would Emma specifically mention my thermos? I drove home in a daze, barely noticing the mountain scenery. As soon as I got inside, I pulled out my phone and called Emma. Voicemail. She was probably in class. Emma, it's Grandpa. I need to talk to you as soon as possible. Call me back, okay? I spent the rest of the day trying to distract myself with chores. I fixed the loose board on the back deck I'd been meaning to get to. I organized my workshop in the garage. I made myself a sandwich I didn't taste. Emma called back at 4:30. Grandpa, thank God. Did you bring the thermos? No, I didn't. Emma, what's going on? Bill was pitching some investment scheme to the guys this morning. And investment scheme? Her voice went sharp. Grandpa, I need you to listen to me. I need you to tell me exactly what he said. So I did. I told her everything. The nephew in Calgary, the AI startups, the 12% returns, the $25,000 minimum, the presentation tomorrow at the community center. Emma was quiet for a long moment after I finished. Grandpa, she said finally, her voice steady and serious, in a way that made her sound much older than 19. For the past 6 weeks, I've been tracking a sophisticated investment fraud that's been targeting seniors across Alberta. We started looking into it as a class project for my cybersecurity course, but it's turned into something much bigger. My blood ran cold. The scam works like this. Emma continued. The fraudster identifies targets in small communities. He uses a trusted local contact, someone respected, someone people know to make the initial pitch. The local contact gets a commission for every person they bring in. The early investors see real returns for the first few months, which keeps them hooked and gets them recruiting others. But it's a Ponzi scheme, Grandpa. The returns are just money from new investors. Eventually, it collapses, and everyone loses everything. Bill, I whispered, you're saying Bill is part of this? I'm saying Bill is the local contact in Jasper. I've traced the pattern. Same MO in Banff, in Canmore, in Hinton. Always someone trusted in the community. Always a story about a nephew or a son or a friend in high finance. Always the urgency, the limited spots, the too good returns. I sat down heavily in my kitchen chair, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. But the thermos, I said. Why did you tell me not to bring my thermos? That's how they identify the serious targets, Emma explained. People who are creatures of habit, who come prepared, who have their routines. Your thermos is famous in that town, Grandpa. Everyone knows you always have it. Bill was probably watching to see who showed up with their thermoses, their coffee setups, their little routines. Those are the people who are organized, who pay attention to details, who might actually have $25,000 saved up to invest. Jesus, I breathed. I've been monitoring local chat rooms, Facebook groups, anywhere these scammers might scout for information. When I saw posts about the regular Tuesday coffee meetup at Rundle Hardware, saw your name mentioned, saw someone, probably Bill, using a fake account talking about the old carpenter with the silver Stanley thermos who never misses a Tuesday. I knew you were being targeted. How do you know all this? I've been working with the RCMP's cybercrime unit for the past 3 weeks. My professor connected me with them when we realized how big this was. We've identified 12 different communities, at least 60 victims so far. Total losses are over $2 million. $2 million. 60 victims. And Bill Henderson, my best friend of 42 years, was part of it. Grandpa, are you still there? Yeah, I said, though my voice sounded distant to my own ears. Yeah, I'm here. Emma, are you sure about this? About Bill? I tracked the money trail, Grandpa. The nephew in Calgary doesn't exist. The company is a shell. Every presentation follows the same script, uses the same fake documents, and Bill has been depositing commission checks to his personal account. I'm so sorry, Grandpa. I know he was your friend. Was, past tense. She was right, of course. Whatever friendship we'd had was gone the moment Bill decided to scam me and everyone else I knew. What happens now? I asked. The RCMP wants to catch them in the act. The presentation tomorrow at the community center, we think the main scammer, the one running the whole operation, will be there. They've been careful, always working through intermediaries, but we think tomorrow they're going to push for big commitments, lots of cash, and that means the boss shows up. You want me to go to the presentation? The RCMP wants volunteers to go in with recording devices. People they know are targets. You'd be perfect, Grandpa. You're respected in the community. If you ask questions, others will listen. And Bill trusts you. Bill trusts you. The irony was almost funny. I need to think about this, I said. I know this is a lot. And Grandpa, I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. The RCMP made me promise not to say anything until they were ready to move. But when I saw the thermos thing, I couldn't let you walk in there completely blind. You did the right thing, sweetheart. You probably saved me from making a very expensive mistake. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that Margaret used to love. I thought about Bill, about all the years we'd known each other, about the time he drove me to the hospital in a blizzard when I'd cut my hand badly with a saw, about how he'd shown up with casseroles and company every week for 6 months after Margaret died. How does someone become this? How does a man I thought I knew better than almost anyone turn into someone who'd steal from his friends, from elderly people trying to make their retirement savings last? I called Emma back. I'll do it, I said. I'll wear the wire, go to the presentation. But I want to understand something first. Why? Why would Bill do this? Emma was quiet for a moment. The RCMP looked into his finances. He gambles, Grandpa. Has for years. Online poker, sports betting. He's got debts of over $300,000. The money he said he made from selling his business? That's long gone. He's desperate. Desperate enough to betray everyone he knew. The next morning, Wednesday, I met with two RCMP officers at a Tim Hortons in Hinton, one town over from Jasper. They were younger than I expected, but professional. Detective Sarah Park explained how the wire worked, a small device they'd tape under my shirt, and a backup recording app on my phone. "We just need you to act natural," she said. "Ask questions a genuinely interested investor would ask, the kinds of things that might make others in the room think twice. Can you do that?" "I was a carpenter for 40 years, I said. "I know how to spot a bad foundation. I think I can spot the cracks in a bad investment scheme." The presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Jasper Community Center. I arrived at 1:45, the wire feeling strange and bulky under my flannel shirt, even though Detective Park had assured me it was practically invisible. Bill was already there, setting up a laptop and a projector. He looked nervous, checking his watch, smoothing his hair. When he saw me, his face lit up. "Robert, you came." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, and hated how easily the lie came out. Tom and Dave arrived, along with a few other seniors from around town, the Carmichael couple, old Mrs. Peterson, who'd taught at the elementary school for 30 years, the Wagner brothers, who'd run the gas station until they retired. All told, about 15 people, all of them over 60, all of them probably with life savings that Bill was hoping to steal. At 2 p.m. sharp, a man I'd never seen before walked in. He was in his 40s, wearing an expensive suit that looked out of place in our small mountain town. This, I assumed, was the main scammer. "Good afternoon, everyone," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "My name is David Chen, not the Dave Chen from our coffee group," I noted, "and I'm here to talk to you about an exciting opportunity that could change your retirement." For the next 30 minutes, I watched him work. He was good. Professional PowerPoint slides showing impressive graphs. Testimonials from satisfied investors that I now knew were probably fake. Technical jargon thrown in to sound legitimate, but not so much that people got confused. Bill sat off to the side, nodding enthusiastically, occasionally chiming in with, "I've seen these exact returns myself." I waited until the presentation was almost over, until David Chen was going for the close, talking about how they needed commitments today. Right now, this opportunity wouldn't last. Then I raised my hand. "I've got a question," I said. David Chen smiled. "Of course. What would you like to know?" "Well, I'm a simple man. Spent my life working with my hands, building things. And one thing I learned is that if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. So I'm wondering, what's the catch here? Because 12% returns every 3 months, that's nearly 50% a year. That's way better than anything legitimate I've ever seen." The room got quiet. I saw Bill shift uncomfortably in his chair. David Chen's smile never wavered. "It's a fair question. The returns come from getting in early on high-growth AI companies. The risk is higher than, say, a guaranteed investment certificate. But the potential rewards are much greater. We manage that risk through diversification." "Okay," I said. "Can you show us the actual companies you're invested in? The portfolio breakdown?" "That's proprietary information, I'm afraid. Our competitive advantage comes from identifying these opportunities before others do." "Right. And this nephew of Bill's who set this all up, what's his name again? What firm does he work for?" I saw the first crack in David Chen's confidence. His smile tightened. Bill's face had gone pale. "I think there might be some confusion," David Chen said. "I'm not anyone's nephew. I represent the investment fund directly." "Huh," I said, making sure my voice carried to everyone in the room. "That's interesting, because Bill told us this was all set up by his nephew in Calgary. Told us it was a family thing, just for close friends. So which is it?" Tom spoke up then. "Yeah, Bill, you did say that. On Tuesday. You specifically said your nephew." Bill opened his mouth, closed it, looked desperately at David Chen. "There's clearly been a miscommunication," David Chen said, his professional polish starting to crack. Mr. Henderson may have simplified the explanation for clarity. The important thing is the investment opportunity itself. I'd like to see registration documents, Mrs. Peterson said suddenly. She'd been a school principal before she taught. She had a sharp mind. Every legitimate investment fund has to be registered with provincial and federal regulators. Can you provide those registration numbers? David Chen stood up. I think perhaps this crowd isn't ready for this kind of opportunity. Bill, I thought you said these were serious investors. They are, Bill said desperately. Folks, listen, I've personally made money with this. You can trust me. Can we? I said, standing up now too. Can we trust you, Bill? Because I'm having a hard time understanding why my friend of 42 years would pitch me an investment that doesn't seem to have any verifiable information behind it. Why you'd pressure us to make a decision today, right now, without time to check with our own financial advisors or do any research. Robert, Bill started, but I cut him off. How much are they paying you, Bill? For every person you bring in? 10%? 20%? The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once. David Chen grabbed his laptop. This is a waste of my time, he said. Bill, you obviously can't control your people. We're done here. He headed for the door, but it opened before he got there. Detective Sarah Park walked in, along with 3 other officers. David Chen, or should I say, David Morrison, you're under arrest for fraud under Section 380 of the Criminal Code of Canada. What happened next felt like a dream. David Chen tried to run, but another officer blocked the back door. Bill sat frozen in his chair, his face gray, as one of the officers read him his rights. You have the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay, the officer said. Do you understand? Bill looked at me, really looked at me, and for just a second, I saw my friend again. The young man who'd helped me build my deck, the guy who'd made terrible jokes at our kids' birthday parties, the widower who understood grief because he'd lived it too. I'm sorry, he whispered. Robert, I'm so sorry. I couldn't. The debts, they were going to kill me. And I thought just a few investments, just enough to get clear, and then I'd stop. But it kept getting bigger, and I couldn't stop. And, sir, you have the right to remain silent, the officer reminded him. Bill stopped talking. They handcuffed him and let him out, and I stood there with the recording wire still taped under my shirt, surrounded by my neighbors who'd almost lost their life savings to my best friend. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm sitting in my kitchen now, the silver thermos in front of me on the table. Emma drove down from Edmonton last weekend. We talked for hours about everything that happened. The RCMP recovered most of the money. Apparently they'd been tracking the main scam for months and froze the accounts as soon as they made the arrests. The people who'd already invested will get their money back, though it might take a while. Bill is out on bail. His lawyer says he's cooperating with the investigation, giving up information on the larger network. I haven't spoken to him. I don't know if I ever will. Tom called me yesterday. You saved us, he said. If you hadn't asked those questions, if you hadn't pushed back, we all would have signed up. I had my checkbook in my pocket, Robert. $25,000. I was ready to hand over. I told him it was Emma who figured it out, Emma who put it all together. But he said I was the one who had the courage to stand up and ask the hard questions, even when it meant confronting my oldest friend. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's what wisdom is supposed to look like when you're 67 years old. Not just knowing things, but knowing when to speak up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Emma's professor asked if I'd be willing to talk to her class about the experience. She thinks it could help other computer science students understand the human element of cybersecurity, how these scams work not just through technology, but through exploiting trust and relationships. I said yes, because if there's one thing I want people to understand, it's this. The best scammers don't steal your money. They steal your trust first. They use your habits, your routines, your relationships. They find the people you love and trust, and they turn them into weapons. My silver thermos sits on the counter every morning now. I still take it to Rundle Hardware on Tuesdays and Fridays. The coffee club is smaller now without Bill, quieter. We don't talk about investments anymore. Mostly we just drink our coffee and talk about the mountains, the weather, our grandkids. Last week, Dave mentioned that his daughter was asking him for money for a great opportunity in cryptocurrency. I saw Tom and the others tense up, and I realized we were all thinking the same thing. Tell you what, I said. Why don't you forward me the information? Let me take a look at it first. You don't have to, Dave started. I know I don't, but I've learned a thing or two about spotting bad foundations. And I've got a granddaughter who's pretty good with computers. Between us, we can probably figure out if it's legitimate. Dave nodded, looking relieved. That's what we do now. We look out for each other. We ask questions. We verify. We don't just trust because someone we know told us to. I think about Margaret sometimes, about what she'd say about all this. She always said I was too trusting, that I saw the best in people even when I shouldn't. But she also said that trust was a gift, and when someone betrayed it, that was on them, not on the person who gave it. I'm trying to hold on to that. Trying to remember that Bill's choices were his own, not a reflection of my judgment. That being willing to trust people isn't the same as being foolish. Emma calls every few days to check on me. She's been offered an internship with the RCMP's cybercrime unit next summer. Her professor says she has a real talent for this kind of investigative work, for seeing patterns and connections that others miss. I'm proud of you, I told her last time we talked. Your grandmother would be proud of you too. She'd be proud of you, Grandpa, Emma said. You stood up when it mattered. You asked the hard questions. You protected people. Maybe. Or maybe I just finally learned to listen when someone who loved me told me to leave my thermos at home. The morning sun is hitting the mountains now, turning them gold and purple the way Margaret used to love. I pour my coffee into the silver Stanley thermos, feel the familiar weight of it in my hand. In a few hours, I'll drive into town for the Tuesday Coffee Club. We'll sit in our usual spot at Rundle Hardware, and we'll talk about ordinary things. But underneath the ordinary, we're all a little more careful now, a little more questioning, a little more aware that the people we trust the most can sometimes be the ones who hurt us the deepest. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Not to stop trusting people, but to trust wisely, to verify, to ask questions, to listen when the people who love us tell us something's wrong, even when we don't understand why. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Emma. Love you, Grandpa. Stay safe out there. I text back, love you too, sweetheart. Thanks for saving this old carpenter from his own stubbornness. She sends back a heart emoji. I grab my thermos and my keys and head out into the November morning. The mountains stand tall and steady, the way they always have, the way they always will. Some things you can count on, some foundations don't crumble, and some lessons, even the painful ones, make us stronger than we were before. God works in mysterious ways, people say. And maybe that's true. Maybe Emma's computer science class assignment, the late-night research that led her to discover a fraud network, the timing that put her on this path just when I needed her most, maybe that was all part of something bigger. Or maybe it was just a smart young woman who loved her grandfather enough to pay attention, to trust her instincts, to speak up when something felt wrong. Either way, I'm grateful. I drive into town, with my silver thermos beside me, ready for another Tuesday, another coffee club meeting, another chance to live this life I've been given, with a little more wisdom, a little more caution, and a lot more appreciation for the people who truly have my back. The mountains watch over Jasper as they always have. And I'm still here, still learning, still grateful to be alive in this beautiful, complicated, sometimes heartbreaking world. Still trusting, but trusting better. Still hoping, but hoping wiser. Still here.